So here's a midnight confession that I may not release until I'm ready. But this one's quite interesting. Yeah, I gotta give you a little bit of a backstory. When me and my ex got engaged, I kind of had the feeling that something was off. And my asking him to marry me was part of my unmasking him. My thought was that if he really was the fake person that my gut was telling me he was, and that he wasn't really the person that I thought that he was, that if I asked him to marry me, that he would say no, and the whole facade would be over with. That we could finally just go our separate ways, and that we could just, be over with the false life I felt like we were living together. And so I orchestrated the whole thing. I made it very romantic. I made it very legitimate. I took him to the garden where we first met, where we had our first date. And I even dressed up in the same outfit where we first met. And I planned it out. I asked him sincerely if he would marry me. And his response pretty much said it all. It took me a while to understand why his response bothered me so much. But his response was, sure, I'll marry you. I'm going to marry you. But it wasn't like, yeah, I'm so flattered and have this big hug and kiss. It wasn't like that at all. It was very, very awkward. And then he wouldn't let me post about it right away. He wanted to go and talk to his family first. Now I know he was playing cleanup crew. He was probably going and saying, hey, Stefania asked me to marry her and she doesn't know that I'm not married. We're just going to go ahead and play along with this. I don't know what he did, but that's pretty much, he must have done something along that line. Because once, we were able to go and see his family, then I was able to tell other people about it. But yeah, there was a part of me when he said yeah, there was a part of me that wanted him to say no. And I was really, really disappointed that he said yeah, and that he acted so, I don't know how to explain the way his response was. It was just nonchalant. His yes to my proposal. And I was so bothered. I was bothered for the first couple of days. I was so bothered. I'm like, this was a horrible, decision. I don't want nothing to do with this. I don't want to be in this anymore. And it just kind of went on and on for another year until I'm like, okay, this has got to end. This has got to end. And I took him aside. I'm like, let's not marry until we finish the cabin. And I already knew we were never going to finish that cabin. And even when I told him that, I was thinking in my mind, gosh, I'm going to figure this guy out. I'm going to get rid of him. I know this person is evil. I don't really know, everything yet, but I just knew, I had to get out of it. And, yeah, I knew we were never going to marry. And, yeah, I think it was around that point that he met the new girl and got her pregnant. Yeah. But wow, what a doozy, He was never supposed to say yes to that proposal. It was all a ploy to unmask him. He was supposed to say no. And the whole facade was supposed to be over with. And we were supposed to go our separate ways. But yeah. And then his family just acted like it was such a great thing. And his sister was like, oh, can I be your flower girl? Or your best, I think she asked to be my, one of my bridesmaids. And I just remember feeling the whole thing was just so awkward and so weird. And I'm just so grateful that's over with. Yeah, never wanted to marry him. Not even for a day. Not even when he got me that promise ring. I'm like, just that promise ring when it didn't even fit me. And then he wouldn't go and get it sized. And then he sat on my bed crying about missing his family with his ex-wife, who I now know wasn't his ex-wife. Gosh, it was just all so crazy. It was so crazy. Oh, the promise ring was because I was upset he was crying about, he said his cats, but he was really crying about his ex-wife. So yeah, how's that for a midnight confession? All right, just had to share that. I had to get that finally off my chest. The engagement was a fake. The whole thing was a fake. You weren't supposed to say yes.